Now, did you know that there are 4 types of PCOS? But if you go and Google that right now, you're going to get 4 types that are actually wrong. And I've seen assessments of 4 different types of PCOS that are completely wrong, and they take you to the same 4, and everyone's talking about the same 4. But when you actually go and research those same 4, they actually go back to one individual. Not to any research, not to any studies, not to anything that can actually support it, just one person's ideas, but everyone is regurgitating this wrong idea. Now, in today's video, what I want to do is I want to dispel the myths. I want to get down to what actually will work for you, the real types of PCOS, and why it's important to understand what's your type of PCOS according to these real types instead of the made up kind of fake types, if you will. But first, let's dive into the wrong types of PCOS. Again, if you go and do a Google search, you're going to find these 4 types. You're going to see it everywhere. Now, the 4 types that I tend to see all over the place are the insulin-resistant type, the adrenal type, the inflammatory type, and post-birth control pill type. The insulin type obviously is associated with high insulin. The adrenal type is associated with high cortisol, high DHEA. The inflammatory type is associated with high inflammatory markers. The post-pill type is associated with taking birth control pill, getting off of it, boom, you have PCOS. So what's wrong with this? Why is it that I'm saying that these are not the right types? Well, here's the reality. There's too much overlap with all of these. Because according to all these different articles I've read, is you kind of go down this hierarchy. You go, okay, do you have high insulin? Okay, you have the high insulin type. But if you don't have high insulin, then you can go to the rest of them. Okay, do I have high DHEA and cortisol? If you don't have that, then you go and look and see if you have inflammatory markers. If you don't have that, if you took a pill to do it, but there's way too much overlap. Most people with PCOS are going to have high insulin, high inflammatory markers, high cortisol, high DHA. Not everyone's going to have those, but most people are going to have some sort of a crossover with all those. So we need to make sure that we're coming to the correct conclusion about your type of PCOS so we can address things correctly instead of just throwing out buzzwords that make it sound good and make it just easier to digest all the time. I understand the importance of that, but I also feel like that is a huge problem in the fitness, in the weight loss, and in the nutrition world, is we try to come up with these easy buzzwords that actually start to make things wrong. Now, another reason why I'm not a fan of these 4 types of PCOS that you'll see out there when you go and Google is because the reality is this: the cause of the PCOS doesn't matter. Because again, when you go to these 4 different types, they talk about the insulin type as it's a symptom more than anything. But the other 3, the high androgen, the high inflammation, and the post-pill, you had a lot of stress and that caused the PCOS. Or you had a lot of inflammation from poor diet and everything, that caused the PCOS. Or you took the birth control and that caused the PCOS. And these all can be true. Those are the cause of the PCOS. But the reality is this: the cause does not matter. Think about this for a second. If someone finds out they have lung cancer, do the doctors ever come to them and say, you have smoker's lung cancer, or you have secondhand smoker lung cancer, or you have living in an area with poor air quality lung cancer, or you inhaled whatever lung cancer? They don't do that. They look at it and they go, you have lung cancer. The cause doesn't matter. You have lung cancer. Let's tackle lung cancer. So same thing with PCOS. I don't care where your PCOS came from. I don't care if you took the birth control pill, got off of it, and boom, you have PCOS. A lot of people I talk to, when they come to me, boom, birth control, they were fine before birth control, got off birth control, boom, PCOS. There's other people who they can talk about, well, I got sick one day, boom, PCOS. Other people, as soon as I started my period, boom, PCOS. There's so many different reasons, so many different ways that can cause the PCOS. That does not matter. What matters is what's actually happening inside your body. So let's dive into the real types of PCOS and what we can actually do about it. So there are actually 4 types of PCOS, but they're different. And these things can be backed and studied and found in the actual research, the things where people are actually going out and doing the research and they're testing it and saying, this is what's happening and here's what each characteristic of each one is. Phenotype of PCOS you have is based off of your symptoms. And there's 3 symptoms we have to take into consideration. Symptom number 1 is high androgens. Just higher DHEA, higher testosterone, higher male hormones. Number 2 is infertility, lack of ovulation, lack of menstrual cycle. And the 3rd symptom they look at is polycystic ovaries. Now, here's the interesting thing. You can have polycystic ovarian syndrome without having polycystic ovaries. That when they first came up with the name of polycystic ovarian syndrome, that's what they first looked at. But that doesn't mean that's what actually is. It's not polycystic ovaries that cause all the problems. That's just a symptom of the problems. So when we find out the 4 different types, the first one has all 3 symptoms: high androgens, infertility, and polycystic ovaries. The second type has high androgens and infertility. And the third type has high androgens and polycystic ovaries. And the 4th type has infertility and polycystic ovaries. But there is a difference between these different types in how the body responds to symptoms and what we see, and also a little bit about how we approach things. We definitely need to make sure we're just eating healthier, we're exercising, but there's some specific things we can do to help you see better results based on your type of PCOS. To give you some examples of this, the first type that we talked about, the ones with high androgens, infertility, and polycystic ovaries, they tend to have higher androgens, they tend to have high insulin, they tend to have the highest levels of inflammation, the highest levels of cortisol. So all those things tend to be the highest with everything. So that we definitely need to make sure we're addressing all those areas. Second type I mentioned tends to have higher androgens, infertility, they tend to have higher androgens, high insulin, high infertility. The third type tends to have higher androgens and polycystic ovaries. They tend to have higher androgens and higher inflammation, but insulin seems to be lower than the others, and polycystic ovaries. And then the type, the infertility, the polycystic ovaries, tends to have high inflammation. And that's kind of the main thing, but they also tend to store more belly fat, which is kind of interesting compared to all of the other ones. So those are the different types. And we need to look at all of these different things and how your body responds to the hormones, the hormone profile, and all those other areas that it can affect your metabolism. Now, the important thing is this: why does it matter what type of PCOS I have? Or what does it matter how my hormones are, or things like that? Because here's the reality. Hormones influence fat loss. Now, I want to make sure that this is very well understood, because out there in the world, you'll hear a lot of people say that calories in, calories out. You just have to be in a calorie deficit. If you're gaining weight, you're eating too much, you're eating too many calories. If you're not losing weight, you just haven't got your calories low enough. And I want to make sure I'm 100% clear on this. That is 100% true. If you are in a calorie surplus, you will gain weight. If you are not in a calorie deficit, you will not lose weight. I agree with that 100%. The calories, how many calories you eat and how many calories you burn, will determine which way the scale moves, whether it's going to move up or down. Here's where I feel like the people who tend to get that realm and say, it's just the calories, that's all that matters. Anyone can lose weight as long as their calories are low enough. The problem I see with that is that they're not taking other things into consideration. For example, what effect does hormones have on your metabolism? Well, hormones can actually make your metabolism faster or slower. During your menstrual cycle, there are different phases where you will have a faster metabolism than other phases because of the way your hormones go up and down. They affect your appetite. So going to someone and say, hey, you're starving all the time, you should eat less. That's not going to work. You need to cut your calories down. But they're like, I'm hungry all the time. Cut them down more. And the same type of thing. On the other end, a lot of people I work with who have PCOS, they don't have an appetite. They don't feel like eating, but they need to eat more nourishing foods, because an important part of helping somebody with PCOS see the results they're looking for is actually nourishing your body and getting enough of the food you need. And if they're not hungry and I go to them and say, eat more, that's going to be too difficult. So I can't just go to them, oh, calories, cut them in, cut them out. Along with that, what if your energy is not there? What if you don't have enough energy? And then here I am telling you, go exercise. You need to work out for an hour a day. And someone's like, I can't even get out of bed. Hormones affect your energy. Hormones affect how you store body fat. If you're trying to lose belly fat and you're just focusing on calories, you're not going to see your belly fat go down as much. There's other things we need to do. Other ways that hormones can affect it is it can affect how your body stores fat, what your body does with the food you eat. When you eat it, some people, when they eat it, they burn a whole lot of it. They'll use it or they'll store it in their muscles. Your hormones determine what you actually do with the food, whether you store it as fat, where you store it, and kind of the result that comes after you eat. There's also water retention that tends to be an issue. A lot of people I work with swell quite a bit. They have a hard time losing the water weight. Their body retains water more. They'll see large spikes in their water retention after eating just a little bit of carbs or eating a little bit of sodium. So how can we go to somebody and just say, you just need to eat less to see results you want to see, when we have all these other factors in there? So we need to make sure that we are taking into consideration what your hormone profile is or how hormones are affected. So let me give you an example. If somebody has higher insulin, so their PCOS phenotype has a higher insulin level, then we need to make sure that we're doing things to help your body use insulin better. It's not just about cutting out carbs. You don't even necessarily have to cut carbs out. There's other things you can do to actually get your body better able to use insulin and better able to use carbohydrates without having to cut out all the carbs. I don't believe that anyone with PCOS should cut out all their carbs. To me, that's a Band-Aid. That's like, you know what? You've got really high blood sugar. We should cut out carbs for now until we can figure something out. So usually what the doctors will do is they'll say, cut out carbs. Here's metformin, which is supposed to help your body use insulin better and use carbohydrates better. And then hopefully blood sugars get down at a normal level. But once you take the metformin away, boom, it goes back up. But then again, metformin doesn't tend to work for everybody. A lot of people have all the digestive issues. You know what I'm talking about if you've taken it, okay? Or they have low energy, or they just don't feel good on it, or it just doesn't work in general. So we have to be careful with that. We can't just go to someone and say, oh, cut out carbs. We need to make sure you're doing other things to help your body use insulin better. Now, what happens if you have higher cortisol levels? Well, there's a famous study that showed that if you cut your calories too low, it actually raises your cortisol higher. So we don't want to do that. We don't want to just cut things out because that actually adds more stress to your body. And I'll talk about stress in just a minute. But we want to make sure you're doing the right types of exercises. And I'm going to add more questions to all this mess as we go along because PCOS is so complex. But you may have heard all over the place that the right type of exercise is very low intense. You shouldn't do cardio. You shouldn't do HIIT, high intensity interval training. You shouldn't do this. You shouldn't do that. And by the time you're done with all the shouldn't do's, you're like, well, what do I do? Well, the reality is this: cardio can help you lower your cortisol levels if it's done correctly. Intervals can lower cortisol if done correctly. It doesn't have to do with the individual workout. It has to do with how you're putting everything together throughout the week. That's the reality. Everyone looks at just one workout. I do the workout, cortisol spikes. Oh no. Studies show us that HIIT training, high intensity interval training, lowers cortisol long term if done correctly. That's the important part. If there's enough rest put in between workouts, if there's enough things you're doing to help you recover from the workout during the week, as opposed to just hit yourself hard, do another hit, do another hit, do another hit. Yeah, that's going to raise your cortisol. Same thing with doing cardio. If there's enough rest between workouts, any type of exercise is going to raise your cortisol. I don't care what it is. And if it doesn't raise your cortisol, then it's not going to help you in any other way because it's not challenging enough for your body. Might as well just lay in bed. Now, the other thing with higher cortisol is we need to do some stress management. But stress management is not just relaxing. It's not just sitting and laying down or meditation, because stress is not just mental stress where meditation can help. There's physical stress. There's stress from poor sleep. There's stress from exercise, which is a good stress, but it's still stress. There's stress from eating junk food. There's stress from eating healthy food. Yes, there's stress on that. There's stress from having your calories too high. There's stress from having your calories too low. So stress can come from all over the place. We can be stressed thinking about stress and trying to manage our stress. So we need to come up with a realistic way to help somebody who has higher cortisol. If your phenotype, your type of PCOS tends to have higher cortisol levels, what do we do to help you lower that stress or that cortisol? Not just managing stress also, but also getting your body better able to use the cortisol. Okay, there's a lot that goes into it. So it's important to understand these different types so that we can make sure we're doing what's right for your body as opposed to what's right for everyone else's body. Why does keto work for one person but not for somebody else? Why does somebody feel good going lower carb and someone feels horrible going lower carb? Why is it that somebody feels great doing one type of exercise but horrible doing another type of exercise? Because we're all individual. And even though you have PCOS, if you're watching this, I'm assuming that you have PCOS. It doesn't mean you're all the same. I'll have people come to me all the time and say, I have PCOS. What should I do? Well, it depends on a lot of different factors. One, we need to understand your type of PCOS. There's other things we need to understand, but once we understand your type, we can start going down that path. By doing something that's individual to you and working on what you need, you can hear things like this. I had a client the other day where we had a group coaching call and I was talking, teaching them all different things. And she jumped in real quick and she's like, okay, I've tried so many different things and nothing's worked. I haven't seen results with anything else. But why am I seeing results with this? Let's listen to it in her own words really quick.
So I, in the past, have done low carb. I've done the exercise and, like moderate eating, and still in the past not been able to lose weight. And I am so perplexed on how what we're doing actually works, because I feel like it's a mix of what I've done in the past, only this time it's actually like helping. It doesn't make sense in my head.
Now, why are things working for her when they didn't work for her before? Well, it comes down to the right recipe, if you will. Making sure that we have everything put together in the right way, the little nuances of what we do, trying to get your body better able to use insulin or handle your cortisol just a little bit better. Little supplements, little workouts, little things like here and there that are geared towards all the issues related to PCOS. Now, I know throughout this video, I probably created more questions than I have answers. My goal over the next several weeks, months, years is to answer these questions and to be able to make this more clear for you. I want to dispel all the myths that are out there. I want to make sure you're understanding what really works with PCOS instead of what marketing plan tells you works with PCOS, or what some guru who said they read a book or here and there, or maybe they helped one person with PCOS, or somebody who happens to have PCOS and goes, oh, I help myself, therefore everyone should do what I'm doing. When again, everyone's different. That's no different than somebody with cancer who went to the doctor, got their cancer cured, and all of a sudden now they want to cure everybody with cancer. That's not what we want to do. We want to make sure that you are doing what works for you. And I want to answer those questions. But it's going to take months and years for us to do that. Now, if you want to get faster answers, I want you to go and find out your type of PCOS so we can start down this path of helping you see the results you want to see. So go to yourpcostype.com. Again, that's yourpcostype.com and take the assessment, the free assessment that's there, and then narrow down to your type so you can start taking the steps you need to be able to see the results you want to see. And once you finish that assessment, we'll make sure that you get the answers you need so you know the first steps that you need to take. So go ahead, again, go to yourpcostype.com. Again, that's yourpcostype.com. Go there, check it all out, and let me know if you have any questions.